Today's sales leader faces increasing pressure and seemingly impossible quotas. And most are told the answer is more calls, more pipeline, more grind. With over 20 years in the trenches of sales leadership, I know there's a better way. Welcome to the Authentic Sales Manager podcast, brought to you by From the Heart Business Network. I'm your host, Harry Spaight. I believe in celebrating wins, visualizing success, and making sales and sales leadership honorable. Let's go. What is a good word? Thanks for joining us on the Authentic Sales Manager podcast. I have a wonderful guest. Stephen Menendez from Strety is joining us. Stephen, welcome to the podcast. What is the good word?
I am honored to be here. That intro got me kind of fired up, man. I hadn't seen it before, so I didn't know what I was expecting. You told me, okay, we're gonna do this quick intro, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm just watching it, and I'm like, whoa, hell yeah, man.
So we're pros. What are you thinking about it?
I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but I'm happy. I'm glad I saw that. Yeah, that sets a good tone, you know?
All right. Well, I want to make sure our guests are fired up when we have these conversations about authenticity. So, Stephen, let's start right with that question. What does an authentic sales manager mean to you, sir?
Great question. What does an authentic sales manager mean to me? I think at the end of the day, it's just it's being yourself, right? And I know that might sound very cliche, but I've always, in my experience, I feel like I've always bought into the idea that people buy from people, right? And if we think about that, like leading by example, right? When we think of our team and how they see you actually run these calls and talk to people and share your stories, etc., right? That stuff is contagious, right? So I think it's just being yourself and leading by example, if that makes sense, right? Like just how you set the tone right now, right? Like I feel like I set that same tone with my team every single Monday when we meet, right? And that energy is sort of contagious. But we spoke about this previously when we first had our initial conversation, that I think people always remember how you made them feel. And that's not just like on the prospect side when you're talking about, the goods and services that you're offering. It's also from a managerial perspective too, right? Your team remembers how you make them feel. So every Monday morning when I meet with my team, I'm just like, how did Jack, Morgan, Tawny, right, and everybody, how did they feel after that call we just had? And if like they're not leaving the call with like the little sparkle in their eyes, right, I'm like, I'm not doing something right. So like I am the ultimate cheerleader for the team,
They must love you, and that's so good, right?
Yeah, love is a strong word, but yes, I'm sure they do. It's actually one of the interesting things that I just actually I was telling them on our last meeting. I've had the luxury of working with the owners of this company a couple times. So this is like our new endeavor. But we had a previous business before Strety called Bright Gauge. And one of the things that my CEO would always tell me at the time, but I feel like I was too young to really understand, or the lack of experience. He always said to enjoy the journey. He's like, man, enjoy this. Like, this is such a great part of the business right now that you have to like, it's the best place you're ever going to work. And I was always like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm like, let me just do my job, And I didn't realize it to our second roller coaster now, where I'm like getting the opportunity to lead another team and watching us grow and watching people learn and everything as, doing it for a while. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I want to do this forever, like, how do we keep this going as long as possible? Right. So it's one of those things that I also have been telling myself as a manager, is just like, also enjoy the ride and enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's also like an essential part to the managerial piece as well. Like, I kind of backed up into management. I didn't really like ask for it per se. I just sort of found myself all of a sudden coaching some reps. And then before I knew it, it's like, hey, how would you feel about just doing that full time? And I'm like, what? I mean, do I still have a quota? It's like, yeah, you actually have more of a quota now, you know?
This is great, Stephen. I love what you're saying here. So we're talking about you being genuine, a real person, a cheerleader, staying positive. All of these things are just great. Salespeople want to be around someone like that. And then what I really enjoy is that I think they're leaders before they're given the responsibility. And that sounds like when people recognize you as a leader and you're coaching people and helping them, this is that whole servant leadership. And it's really practical. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's wise for business owners to look at people like that on their team and say, I've got my sales manager, my leader right here in front of me, the one that's constantly coaching people and serving them. Right. So what's your thought on that?
Well, I have some thoughts on this, and I don't know if it's a hot take or not. You might agree with this. This might be the basics, but one of the things for like I would say the next level up, right? When we're thinking like VPs, directors, often in smaller businesses like CEOs, is like sometimes the knack is like, hey, that top performing rep, like that guy who's just or gal who's just crushing it quarter after quarter, that's the next leader. That's the person we want to put in charge because obviously they know what they're doing and they should be able to train everybody else on what they're doing. And that is not true at all. It's sometimes the best reps make terrible managers, right? Like just because they know what they're doing doesn't mean that they can train somebody. They have the patience, right? They have this self-awareness. It's an entirely different skill set, and it's sometimes it's not super easy to have the self-awareness to say, wow, Harry is a good rep, but behind the scenes, I noticed that everyone is leveling up, right? Like why is all of a sudden feel like everybody's leveling up? Oh, he's coaching them, right? And he's sharing his best practices, right? So it's like as I evolve into the next phase in my career, it's something that I look at in my reps. I'm like, well, what do I see that maybe some of my reps are doing that's interesting for like that next level? And I can already see it, right? I see some of my reps that like do that extra step. Like it's not required of them, but I see them like I'm like, hey, you were just meeting up with Jack. What was that about? What were you doing? He's like, oh, I was helping him out with. I noticed on HubSpot he was kind of struggling with an email, and I jumped on there and I'm trying to help him out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, yes, that is amazing. And that reminds me of me because that's what like I care deeply about. Hey, like if I hit my quota, great. But if the whole team hits the quota, that's just better for all of us, right? And that's just something that sort of clicked with me early on. It's just like, if we're all doing this, we do better. All of us, we get paid more, right? And it's kind of like that click, doesn't happen for everybody. There's people that really sit into that IC role and are just like, okay, I'm going to stay in my lane and I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And then I'll just get promoted and do whatever I got to do next. And that isn't always the best way forward when we're choosing, right, the person who's going to lead this team. So that's something I've noticed. And I know that's how my CEO, at first I was like, why am I getting put in charge to do this? Like, I don't think there's anything particularly special. And then once we started looking at everything and, it became clear, it's like, oh yeah, I think I was just doing this and I didn't know I was doing this. And it just felt like an instinct, right?
Right observation and a bright person who was watching you that said, yes, you need to be
Yeah.
the guy, right? So
Mhm.
let's take a quick break from our sponsor here. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this curiosity thing and working side by side with your team, which is another great style of leadership. So we'll be right back.
If you were buying a company, you wouldn't just glance at the website and say, looks good, let's buy it. You'd do your due diligence. You'd review the books, check the leadership, dig into performance history.
Exactly. You never spend millions on a company without knowing what you're getting. Yet, most CEOs hire salespeople with nothing more than a resume and a gut feeling.
That's why we recommend Sales Index Unlimited Candidate Assessments. It's like due diligence for your sales hires. Each sales candidate is evaluated across 21 core sales competencies because a crucial role like sales requires more than a personality profile. Sales Index compares candidates against a database of 2.5 million salespeople. You'll know exactly who has the drive, the grit, and the skills to perform before you bring them on board.
Because in sales, a bad hire doesn't just cost salary, it costs momentum, margin, and morale.
For just $299 a month, you can protect your growth engine and make every sales hire a smart investment.
Do your due diligence before your next hire.
Go to unlimited.salesindex.ai. That's unlimited.salesindex.ai and hire with confidence.
Welcome back to the Authentic Sales Manager podcast. I've got with me this great persona here, Stephen Menendez. He's the real deal. We're having a blast. We're talking about sales leadership. And not all sales leaders come from the top performer, move right directly into sales leadership and then hope that everyone on their team does things exactly like they do. Many of us have seen that. It doesn't always work. So, Stefan, you have a different approach working side by side with your team. You mind chatting a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that oftentimes, I have a lot of friends that are still in the IC sort of role, and they're just like top performing enterprise reps. And the market it's tough out there, right? For a lot of sales reps. And I sometimes look at the interview process, right? For how people are getting hired. And a lot of the time they're looking for like the track record, right? They want to make sure you're hitting quota, quarter after quarter, you're in the 1%, right? You're the best of the best, right? But things happen. Sometimes it's, you can be working at a company and things turn for the worst. And it's like, it's not your fault, right? That you didn't hit quota. Sure, you can control what you can, but if the product isn't just like, doesn't have the right market fit, right? It doesn't have the right market fit, and that can happen. So for me, one of the most interesting traits that I look for is curiosity. And I'll tell you why. It's because, because sometimes when we think about like arguably the most important part of the deal cycle, you want to take a guess at what I think it is?
Well, I'm thinking it's the beginning, starting the relationship.
Oh, yeah. It's the beginning. It's the discovery, right? The discovery. It's one of the most important parts. If you don't do a good discovery, then you don't really have a deal, and oftentimes, like even when I'm sold software, right, I'll see someone read through like a discovery sheet, whether they're following MedPick or Gap or Sandler or whatever they're doing. They're just going question by question by question. I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay, get to the point, man. Show me the demo. I want to see the demo. But when it's done the right way, it feels flawless. It feels like a conversation. It feels like you're consulting, right? And if we go to the root cause of like, hey, what sparks that? It's curiosity, right? So at the end of the day, to tie it all back together, the one thing that I look for and the one thing that I try to enhance with my team is I look for curiosity. When I have a call with someone in an interview cycle, I just want to know, can they carry a conversation, right? Are they going to ask me questions to like double click into certain things, right? So in that initial screening call, like the one thing that I'm looking for is like, are they going to be able to have a normal human conversation with me and naturally just ask questions, right? And it feel authentic. And if they can, I'm like, awesome, I can train everything else, right? But the curiosity piece is really hard. Right. Some people, and I hate to say like you either got it or you don't, like you can always train on some type of things, but you'll know in like the moment you talk to somebody, right? Like just like that, can this person naturally just carry on the conversation? So once they do have that skill set, right? See, okay, there's, and I plant little like nuggets there, right? I'll toss like a random fact and I'll say like, I just toss something random. They're going to ask me about that. Right. So I plant these little seeds everywhere. But once we have that, everything else is gravy, right? Because we can teach all that other stuff. But oftentimes, man, I can't tell you how many times we just go through the discovery, just question. And then I'm just like, man, this kind of sucks. In an environment where AI is pushing products to develop so much faster, like at the end of the day, a lot of these products do the same thing, right? Why would I go with Harry's product over Stefan's product, right? And it's going to depend on how you made them feel, right? Did you ask the right questions, right? Are you solving the problem? Is there a problem? I can tell
Oh
you
my
half the
God.
times you go through a conversation and you're like, then just jump straight into a demo. And it's like, dude, you're demoing someone who doesn't
Right.
have a problem. Like, what are you
Yeah.
trying to solve here? You know, we're wasting
Well,
each other's time.
this is so good. I'm having a hard time just biting my tongue here, so I don't interrupt you.
Yeah.
But yes, you're striking so many chords here. The curiosity, jumping straight to a demo, list of questions. So what we have a bit of a problem in, I believe, in sales with the KPIs, is that everyone is looking at, okay, how many demos did you do? And it's quantity over quality, right? What are the discovery, right? So I did the discovery, raced through the discovery, asked the 37 questions, got the answers, hit the demo, and then I wonder why they're not buying, because it is so mechanical, is what my thinking is like you're just putting a humanoid bot in front of somebody that doesn't interact, is not reading facial expressions. I mean, you know the deal. You and I mean, we're talking about being fired up over this podcast. We're having a natural conversation.
Yeah.
But when you put a salesperson who is just looking at being measured by numbers and not the connecting of people, it's like, how did
Yeah.
we connect with that person? That's not discussed in the CRM. That's not discussed
It's
in
not.
the spreadsheets with the accountants looking at saying, well, I've got
Yeah.
this person who's not great with numbers, but they're great with connecting. No one
Well,
sees that person, right? So that's
yeah.
where you can come in and kind of be the middle. It's like we call it middle management for a reason, but it's
Yeah.
really front lines, in my opinion. It's
Front
right.
lines. Yeah.
You're front line leading and helping develop people. So, what's your take on all of that wordiness?
Oh my goodness, a lot. So I think this goes back to like, and I've had managers before. I call them spreadsheet managers, right? Where they're forecasting managers. They're not like actual in the trenches with you managers, right? And I think that speaks volume too, right? I think oftentimes, like, and especially happens with larger organizations, like we get fixed on the, hey, these are the KPIs. You hit your KPIs, you do well. We have to have the KPI information to do the forecasting, right? And from a high level perspective, we're looking top down. It's like, yes, we think that works. But when you're on the front lines, you're like, no, man, like these conversations are all different. They all carry different weight. So we follow a model, like we use the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, and that's Strety. That's what we built the software around that. But it's really helped us switch from a activity based management style to more objective based management style. Right. So
Tell
like
me
my
more.
team. Yeah. So like in many ways, like most, like you look at us, we have a scorecard, right? With like number of meetings you're doing, number of calls you're making, number of discovery calls, et cetera, right? And that stuff's fine, right? That's, you have to have some type of KP, leading, lagging indicators. But really what I want my team focused on is the conversion rates, right? Like, hey, are we converting these, right? Like, is something actually happening, right? So I care less about, like, I'm like, hey, you didn't hit your activity metrics, that's fine. But if your deals are converting, that's what I care about, right? Like, I'd rather have one to five great conversations than, 50 crappy conversations. You know what I mean? And it's sometimes hard to like really pinpoint, okay, how do we measure that? But I always look at like, okay, like, are these deals converting and how fast are they converting? Right. And then if I notice that deals are converting, but they're converting slower, then I use, I go and I listen up and calls and then we'll talk about what's going on and we'll do my favorite thing ever, role playing, right? To dive into like, hey, how can we change this? What can we do better? But to wrap that up, like our style at Strety is I'm in the trenches, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm doing some demos as well. Yeah, sure. I'm working like more specific opportunities as well, but I don't ask my team to do anything that I wouldn't do, right? And they see me in there, and I also sometimes I come from a place of I don't know if humility is the right word, but I'm like, hey guys, like I had a crappy call. Let's
Yeah,
listen to it. Let's
it
talk
is
about
the
it. Like
right word.
I'm not perfect. Sometimes, like what did I and this was we just introduced like a call recording software, and everyone was like, oh, call recording software. Everyone's gonna listen to my calls. And the way I
we're going to
introduced
leave it right there.
Okay.
Okay, because that is the great hook. You're
Yeah.
setting us up. Stephen Menendez making phone calls that are recorded. So we'll take a quick word here with our sponsor, and we'll get right back into getting our hands a little dirty in the sales leadership arena.
If you were buying a company, you wouldn't just glance at the website and say, looks good, let's buy it. You'd do your due diligence. You'd review the books, check the leadership, dig into performance history.
Exactly. You never spend millions on a company without knowing what you're getting. Yet, most CEOs hire salespeople with nothing more than a resume and a gut feeling.
That's why we recommend Sales Index Unlimited Candidate Assessments. It's like due diligence for your sales hires. Each sales candidate is evaluated across 21 core sales competencies because a crucial role like sales requires more than a personality profile. Sales Index compares candidates against a database of 2.5 million salespeople. You'll know exactly who has the drive, the grit, and the skills to perform before you bring them on board.
Because in sales, a bad hire doesn't just cost salary, it costs momentum, margin, and morale.
For just $299 a month, you can protect your growth engine and make every sales hire a smart investment.
Do your due diligence before your next hire.
Go to unlimited.salesindex.ai. That's unlimited.salesindex.ai and hire with confidence.
And we're back with Stephen Menendez from Strety, the sales leader there. And he is actually the head of sales. And what I love about Stephen is he gets in the trenches. He leads side by side with his team, not from the corner office, which I love, love, love. And in fact, I'm a huge fan of sales leaders getting right out in the bullpen and having their spot right there next to the reps, showing that, hey, I can get my hands dirty as well. I can do what you guys are doing. And that is humility. So, Stephen, talk to us about this call. You said that you're being recorded and you have to show humility with your team. How does that all work?
Yeah, absolutely. So as mentioned, we introduced a call recording software, right? Because it became time, and I'm like, guys, we just need to do a better job at this. We need to get better where we just have high volume and I need some quality control. I know you guys are doing a great job, but I just need something to let us know where we can do better. And, typically we're a smaller organization, but like, this is the standard across most businesses. But when I first pitched the idea, I could see the eyes like, oh man, am I going to be micromanaged on this? Or like, what's going to happen? So my way of introducing it was I used it myself for a week. And I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I don't have I know it sounds like, oh yeah, Stephen he's great. He probably has great calls. All his calls are amazing, right? It's like, no, sometimes I mess up. And I don't follow my own recipe, and it can happen, right? I get lost in the sauce. So there was a couple instances where I got lost in the sauce, and it was recorded. And you know what we did on our Monday morning call? I put it up, and I was like, "All right, guys, what could I do better?" And everyone laughed. They're like, "Oh man, look at all these non-words that you said, right? Look at all these, like you didn't do ACE, you didn't appreciate them, and ask them for their time, check the time. You didn't do any of that, man." And I'm like, I know. And there's going to be times where you guys don't do it either, and that is okay. The idea here is that we get better, right? But that like opened the door to say like, oh yeah, he's doing it just like I'm doing it, and it makes it feel more like we're all in this together. Like, no, I'm not doing like the volume that the reps are doing, but I am doing it to some capacity. And I think that helps so much. Right?
Huge. It's huge. I mean, we're talking about authenticity before and being real. Yeah. I mean, it's so different when you're in the corner office telling reps go do something you've never done. No sales rep respects that type of leader. Yeah. And then when you're in the trenches side by side and saying, all right, I'll go first, rip me to shreds. That just had to be a blast. That's
it. Oh yeah, it was fun. I loved it. I am going to say one other piece here. This is, I'm not going to lie. I was a bit of a tough. My manager, if he ever sees this, he would laugh. I was a bit of a tough cookie as a rep. because I was definitely one of those, like, I felt like I was top performer. And anytime I got a manager, if I didn't see them doing the work, or if I felt like they didn't have anything to train me on, like, I'm like, why should this guy be leading me? And that was my personality. I was always like, I always want to learn more. So when I have someone managing me, I look to them as my, like, this is the person who's guiding me through the next step in my career. And like, I want to learn. I'm so hungry to continue learning, and if this person isn't bringing anything to the table, I'm like, how is this helping me advance? Right. And go to that. That's how I like to be managed. Right. I need someone that's going to be a mentor to me.
Sure.
Right. So in many ways, like, whenever I got that manager that was like, I felt like they didn't bring anything to the table, or weren't coaching me, and we're just that forecasting guy, like, I lost the spark. I was just like, man, why am I doing this? And sales is hard. It's not easy. Right. And we get a lot of no's every day. And I feel like when you lead by example, and you have someone in there in the trenches with you, it makes it for a lot of these reps, especially the younger reps, who, like, you want to build best practices from the start with them too.
Absolutely. I mean, this things that you just touched on, you said, I wanted to be coached. This is a huge disconnect with managing versus leading. It's one thing to manage a spreadsheet, the KPIs, to manage from a CRM, but coaching and developing sound like you have to have a ton more experience than the salesperson, but you've got to have more experience in coaching and leading, so you know what that looks like versus go do stuff. Right. So what's your thought?
Well, so the initial things that come to mind, I just think of all my reps, and I think about how different they all are. Right. And that is another thing that some managers oftentimes miss, is they think, hey, this style works, so they apply that style to everybody. And the truth of the matter is that everyone is different, and you have to manage them all differently. Like, I have some of my reps that they prefer to be managed very directly, right? They want the feedback right then and there. And there's some other ones that I know, if I give them the feedback direct, right, if I talk to them, hey, you need to work on this, that it's actually not a motivator, right? And that's okay, right? People, they're all great performers in their own way, but the delivery and the way you get them to that next step, it has to be different. And that requires a unique level of self-awareness and some level of experience. Like, I was about to use some bad language, but I stopped myself. Okay. We're going to keep this PG. But there are various scenarios where, like, I used to manage people all the same way. And I'm like, man, I think that person doesn't like me. Right. And then it took me messing up, to then realize, oh, I need to approach this differently. Right. I need to deliver the news a little differently.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It is one of the most, like, I feel like the highest ROI from a manager perspective that you do. You have to do it the right way. It's not, it's awkward at the start, right? But like, I worked at one company where I was working enterprise deals, and it was 6 months deals, and it was one of those where, like, you get, you have your pipelines at, like, you have $0 closed, and then at the end of the quarter, like, what's going to happen? And then everything hits at the same time, or nothing hits, right? And it's, but it's like, how do we prepare for that, right? Like, how do we de-risk, right, the deal? And these are all things that role playing helps out tremendously with, right? So with my team, I love, in another life, I think I was an actor, or something like that. But, or maybe coaching has gotten me better into maybe to be maybe an aspiring actor. But it helps so much, because, like, what we train for is, like, worst case scenario. Right.
Yeah.
So, I'm going to be tough, and I'm going to throw curveballs, and you're going to struggle, but we're getting the marbles out the mouth. Right. So that way, when you do jump in, you're like, oh my God, this is a walk in the park, man. Like, this person is awesome. But then when you talk to me, I'm going to be the nightmare. Right. But when you train hard, when you go there out on the field, you're like, I know every single rebuttal this person's going to throw at me, and I am ready to rock and roll. So big fan.
So good. Do you take the role of the sales rep at times, as in the role playing, so that the sales rep is the tough decision maker, and they get to pay you back a little for this, or no?
Oh, great question. Yes, absolutely. So like I said, when a place of humility showing my call right at the start, I need to set the standard for, hey, this is a safe space, right? So I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what? You guys stumped the professor.
Yeah.
Let's jump in here. Give me everything you got. And I'm going to struggle and I'm going to try to do my best, right?
Yeah.
Now, this is a little tricky, right? Because you
Okay.
want to make sure that you're doing this right. You don't want to embarrass yourself flat out in front of your rep. So just make sure that if you are going to play the sales rep, that you know what you're doing and you are confident. Because I've had some friends that also do it, and they're like, "Dude, I'm never doing it again." I asked one of my reps to do it, and they chew me out, right? And I was embarrassed. So I'm like, just be ready, to have like practice what you preach,
Yeah. It's so funny. I mean, I would probably be screaming at someone when I'm messing up saying, hey, my role is to serve you guys to help you to be better. Whoever said I was going to be good at this.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Make
will
all
say
kinds of excuses.
Harry, there have been times where I'm like, I've done one of these. I'm like, all right, time out. Why the heck did you ask me that, man? Like, who hurt you? Okay.
Right.
Like, why are you, has a prospect ever really said that to you? And you're like, no, but what if they do?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
You've been hanging
Okay.
around me too much. Yeah.
No, that's great. So, I mean, I just love it. So I'm going to ask real quick here, coming up on our time here, but a couple of questions. One is, sales, you mentioned earlier, sometimes it's not an easy job. People like you can make it a lot easier with your optimism and positive outlook and continuing to move forward. But there's probably some downtimes where things are not going as well as you'd like. What do you do to recharge? And even if it's not a downtime per se, but how do you stay positive and upbeat? And what do you do to recharge?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I like to look at is just like big picture, right? Like sometimes we get, we're in the high velocity sales business, right? So there's times where, you can't have a slow week, right? But I always abide by, and I tell my reps this all the time, like, just like control what you can. And when you can't control, don't worry about it, right? Like, just do the work, right? You're having good conversations, right? Like, our value prop, just keep doing it and things. And I apply that same principle to myself. It's like, yes, we had a slow week. It's okay. Things happen, right? There's a lot going on in the world. It's going to impact us, like with economic tailwinds. It's just the name of the business. Let's not hone in on, what we did bad, right? Like, and I know sales has a knack of this. I'm not a fan of this quote, but it's like, what have you done for me lately? Right. And every time I hear that in sales, I'm like, classic, it's just like part of the rat race and all that. But I'm like, sometimes you have to zoom out, right? And just say, okay, well, sure, this week has slowed down, but like overall, we are crushing it. Like, what are the wins that we had this week, right? So sometimes I'll look into our call recorder and I'll see like, oh my goodness, Morgan just handled this objection so nice, right? And that hypes me up, right? And I'm like, guys, like, this is amazing. Like, let's talk about this win here, right? So I think for me, it's sometimes just like not honing in on like what sucked about the week, but like, what did we do really well this week, right? Let's talk about what we like. We're not going to ignore the bad stuff, right? We'll work through that, but let's talk about like what we did very well and how can we replicate that success for the following week. And that's what kind of helps me sleep at night. Sometimes when I have some slower weeks or something like that.
Yeah. But what about you personally? So you're helping
Yeah.
your team, I see that. But what about you personally? What does Stephen Menendez do personally, if that's okay to ask?
Personally, I haven't shown you my office. You can't really see it here, but it is also a recording studio for music. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. I have 6 guitars to my left. I have 2 synthesizers. Yeah, and a bunch of amps all over the place. Yeah. So
there you go. We found the answer.
Yeah, and sometimes like I hate to say I'm always on, but in some ways I'm like always on. It's part of who I am. But sometimes I step away and I just like detach myself entirely from it, and I'll pick up my guitar and I'll play a little guitar and just reset, recalibrate. Right. And in doing that, everybody has their thing. That's my thing. Right. Some people, it's like, hey, I'm going to read a book. Right. I'm going to go out for a walk. Right. I know these are like small things, but they are so incredibly powerful to just like detach yourself from the day in and day out. Whatever your thing is, just 10, 15 minutes just to recalibrate and readjust. And then for me, the answers always come back to me, right? It's like, I'm stressed out. I can't figure it out. I'm like, I need to detach myself from this scenario right now. I pick up my guitar. I'll play a few riffs. I'll get some fresh air. I'll sit on my couch. I'll close my eyes. And then I'm like, oh, why am I worried about this? You know, like this is small potatoes, you know? And I know it's more of like the, you know, rainbows and butterflies sort of.
No, it's great. I love it.
But it's so important, right? For especially in our line of work, right? It's having some time for yourself, right? Is always going to help you just do more and recalibrate. I think that recalibration is super important. So,
man, I hate to end this conversation. Ending on that note of creativity is absolutely incredibly powerful. It recharges. We have a creative side of our brain for a reason, and finding ways to use it and step out from what we're doing and look at big picture, sometimes no picture, and just getting lost into our creativity can go miles. So Stephen Menendez, we talked about so much here today. I love the conversation about getting in the trenches with your reps, being humble, taking the lead, exposing your weaknesses and faults and challenges. People love that. They see, you know, the genuine article with you, and just the way you're optimistic and positive with your reps. So good. So many good things here. I love the points that you're making about EOS, about looking at, you know, how are deals progressing? How are we moving the deals forward versus just strictly numbers? So tons of great stuff. I would love to have another conversation with you because there's so much more to talk about.
We can talk all day about this stuff. Yeah, man.
So
absolutely.
All the best to you and your work at Strety. Keep lighting the world on fire with your music, and we'll talk to you again soon. All the best to you. Any final thoughts there for you?
No, man, I love this. I'm like, you have an awesome job, man. This is amazing. But this is awesome. Hopefully there's some nuggets here for people. And then like the last for me, if there's one thing I could in this world of expanding technology and competition always catching up, my last thoughts are people are always going to remember how you made them feel on the call, and people always buy from people. Be human, especially in a world of AI. It's one of the unique skills that we all inherently have, and we need to take advantage of it.
We'll leave it on that note. We'll end this right now, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for listening.
You got it, man.
And if you know someone out there that is a sales leader that is looking for encouragement, share this podcast episode with them, and great things will happen. Thanks for joining us on the Authentic Sales Manager podcast, brought to you by From the Heart Business Network. If today's conversation resonated, rate, review, and share it with a sales leader who needs to hear this. Keep celebrating wins and making sales leadership honorable. See you next time.